So let me quickly introduce, just to set you the context of why we assembled this panel together, because it's important always naturally to know what is the intelligence behind this panel. Akash here has been a serial entrepreneur, done extremely good work, and now is an advisor, has worked for, and he will give you a little bit of background before he starts. Vikram, of course, is one of our top entrepreneurs in the city of Pune right now, so I will let him go first and talk about the kind of entrepreneurial work he's doing and what role AI has to play in it. Uday again has been one of the early pioneers in entrepreneurship in this country, in fact one of the first Pune companies in technology to get listed on the stock exchange, and now he's again advising that company and many others. Seema is CEO of this entity called Skills Alpha, which I mentioned in my talk, which is this whole intelligent platform for enabling better learning, and she also works on both corporate learning and other forms of hire, train, deploy for various corporates, including the GCCs. And Karthikeyan has actually been a serial entrepreneur in the US, just recently came back to India and has worked for Give India and is now working for the philanthropy sector, looking at how the best technology solutions can work even for NGOs and smaller organizations. So which is a very, as you can see, is a very eclectic mix of people. And I myself, in my current corporate avatar, we are actually building and listing a solution called GTT Data Solutions. And the basic premise of GTT Data is to say that, look, what I just talked about. That AI, brute force AI is not going to help us. We need data, we need intelligent data, and just one statistic I must tell you from what Amitabh Kant told me, 20% of the world's data emanates from India. But hardly 2% are stored here as in the data centers. So clearly data identification, data ingestion, data storage, data dissemination is extremely important. So that's one area we're looking at. Then making use of the data, which is the analytics, the prescriptive, predictive analytics that we all talk about, that's important. And we also believe, and that is our whole core of what we're trying to do build in our company, in GTT Data, is that there is a dual intelligence that is required, which means that while AI will continue to progress in whatever form that I talked about earlier, we need natural intelligence to progress so that they can be complementary. The yin and yang of human intelligence and artificial intelligence is what we're calling the duality of intelligence. So that's really what we're doing. So Vikram, I'm going to hand it over to you and say that, look, what have you been doing? What are the companies you're looking at? And where does AI fit into your scheme of things?
Thank you.
Each of our panelists will talk for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to immediately throw it open to audience. So if you have any questions, do feel free to ask. Make it interactive. Yes, sir.
So I've been in data for the last maybe 30 years now, and we've been data in various areas of our application. And what we found was, and we've been doing this for the last 3 decades, we found that we need clean data, and that is one area that we have had problems with in India. We don't recognize what real valuable data is all about. And in our businesses, and businesses range from manufacturing to technology to logistics, supply chain management, we've been using data and algorithmic rules for as many years as I mentioned just now. The most interesting, I'm going to talk about some of the most interesting areas that we used data analytics and algorithms, and I kind of agree with Ganesh when he says there's a lot of hype in India about AI. So after about 20-25 years of doing this, we suddenly realized that whatever is being called AI now is what we've been doing for the last couple of decades as deep data analytics, and really the difference between artificial intelligence and algorithmic decision making is at least in our country it's a very gray area. To our mind, artificial intelligence is where the engine, the rule, the decision engine learns by itself and adds to its own ability to decide. What we are really looking at in what we call AI now is where rules have been laid down and set and created, and the engine is simply spitting out answers based on those rules. And it's a very big difference, let me tell you. So here are some of the application areas. So the most interesting one we had was in the supply chain and logistics field. And way back in 1998-99, we developed devices that would acquire data from trucks and how they moved, where they went, how they drove. And we started picking up humongous amounts of data in microsecond intervals, which would tell you how the driver behaved in certain situations. And we captured that data and we started analyzing it, and we developed what we called a driver risk scorecard. And it took us about 10, maybe 15 years to really stabilize it. But today, in India, on Indian roads, for an Indian truck driver, we are actually predicting which driver is likely to have an accident in the next 90 days. Okay? And so there's a little secret here. Anyone who's from IIT will tell you that it's very easy to do that, because if I predict that he's going to have an accident and he doesn't have the accident, I say that's because my prediction worked. You see, he drove safely. So it's very difficult to really know whether it works well or not. But the results or the records show that. So we started with a company called Castrol. I'm sure you've heard of Castrol in India, right? So Castrol is part of British Petroleum, and Castrol had 1,300 trucks, and we got KPMG to do this study with our data and our systems in the period 2012 to 2017. It's a 5-year period. And at the start of the period, there were 1,300 trucks. We were doing almost 75 million kilometers a year of transportation. And because of industry ups and downs, in the 5th year, that's in 2017, Castrol did almost the same volume that they did in the first of that 5-year period. So it was an apple-to-apple comparison. They shipped the same amount of product. At the end of it, we found that they had done only 65 million kilometers to transport the same quantity. So that came from analytics of route management and supply chain optimization that came from that same data. Accidents, 240 in year 1 of the study, came down to 3 in year 5 of the study. 14 fatalities in year 1 of the study came down to 0 in year 5 of the study. So we assume and presume that it worked. And along the way, somebody told us that, hey, do you know that whatever you're doing, this is what is being called artificial intelligence in the West? And we said, okay, if that's what it's called, then let's also write that, that boom. And I went and applied for some patents for some of the algorithms that we used. We applied for some patents for some of the systems that we used, and to our surprise, 10 years later, it took 10 years in India to get that patent. Last year, we were awarded that patent effective 2014 or 2015. Another very interesting area where we applied the technology, and please stop me if you think I'm running out of my allotted time, 1 minute more, is that if you go to a city called Junagadh in Gujarat, where we have placed our smart cameras. We got smart cameras there, and we're looking at the road. And some of our cameras look at the bus stop, and they count the number of people waiting at the bus stop. And live during, at that instant, they send messages to the municipal transport corporation to say that this route requires an extra bus on it right now, because there are more than 20 people waiting at a bus stop. And this is, again, very simple technology, but this is what is called AI in India. But I'll give you an example of real AI. This is something that's happening in Pune, in the retail space, where in some stores where we're doing it, you walk into the store and the camera recognizes you, doesn't know who you are, so your privacy is not impacted, but it recognizes you. And it knows that the last time you were here, you bought a shirt of a particular size, a particular color, particular checks, and it starts to show you products that are in store that you like, of your size, of the colors that you want. So the AI that's being used is the similar, the coffee maker and the prompt to buy are all standard algorithmic pushes that the data comes up with based on decisions that are being taken on the fly. The real challenge and the real future for us sitting here in this room is in two parts. One is there will be a set of people here who will actually leverage that AI that's available and convert it into applications like the one I'm talking about. And the other one is the actual creation of those AI engines and creating those large language models that we are talking about. These are the two areas that we should be looking at. Gone are those days where you're looking at doing IT services, writing code. In our company, AI does that. we don't need Python people or C++ or whatever, because the engine just spit out that code. You do need somebody who understands it, because that's the question you have to ask. But I think in our manufacturing business, and even in auto manufacturing, we are using the technology on a day-to-day basis, but it's not, it's the hype more than the actual AI that we are using. So it's the simple application area and not the deep learning AI engines that we really should be looking at.
No, that's fascinating, Vikram, and I think it's really, really good, because these are genuine use cases that's happening right here in India. Of course, I have one argument, and maybe we'll touch upon it later. I mean, if you go to a shop and they know you've been buying check shirts for the last 20 years, for the rest of your life you'll be buying check shirts, because they won't show you anything else. It reminds me of the old story I used to read 20 years back, saying there is a perception in America that all Japanese like orange juice. You know why that perception? Because the Japanese poor guy gets into the aircraft, and this very domineering American air hostess comes pushing her cart. And in a plane, the first thing you see on the cart is the orange juice. So because he doesn't want a conversation with her, he just points and says orange juice. So people have now decided that every Japanese only drinks orange juice. So this is reinforcement bias. We'll be a little careful in that in AI. Akash, yes.
Yeah, I think so. Can I stick to the panel theme in a way, right? How entrepreneurs are leveraging AI. And I started my first AI company in 2011. This was conversational discovery of content commerce in media. And I was nominated as top technology pioneer by World Economic Forum. The reason I'm saying is that let's divide this into two categories, right? How entrepreneurs are leveraging AI as an opportunity. How entrepreneurs are leveraging AI to optimize the opportunity, right? Which means is, at one side, as you have seen, the whole evolution of generative AI. And I think this is where, as Vikram was talking, there was this pre-generative world, which was machine learning, deep learning. Obviously, there was some work on neural network learnings as well. And there was a lot of talk on how generative AI will be basis reinforcement learning and neural learning as combination. So what happened is, in last 4 or 5 years, and this journey started in 2015-16, where, as you would remember, OpenAI built their first transformer, basis neural engine model, and it could generate one sentence, right? And which is where that gave them the confidence that if you build large transformers, which eventually turned out to be large language models, you can create paragraphs and essays and things like those. Right? So that's how the evolution of generative AI started. And that's how entrepreneurs started looking at generative AI as the opportunity. Obviously, there was this pre-AI world which was specific to some enterprises. Somebody was building regression-based predictive algorithms. Somebody was building prescriptive algorithms and things like those. But generative AI just widely opened the market of AI in different ways. And now, why is that? Before I go into that, what separates us with animals? If anybody can raise their hand, just kind of say, what separates us with animals? Yeah?
Language.
Absolutely, right? Language. And which is where a lot of these entrepreneurs, including Sam, took up that as the baseline and built up the whole transform model. And the opportunity started looking at what are the language use cases I can go after as opportunity, right? So some entrepreneurs started creating companies which are automating email scripting, which is again language-based email script generation, because what you do in emails are all languages. You communicate is all language. Some entrepreneurs started leveraging generative AI for customer service. What you do in customer service, you talk. Again, it's a communication, hence it's a language. So how do you automate that? How do you build reasoning into that? How do you build emotions, empathy, communications in that, right? So people started taking, and by the way, the next wave of disruption is coming on the BPOs. Before it comes to IT services, by the way, right? And you will see disruption in BPOs at the scale. So all level 1, by the way, all L1 communication which happens today with humans, with BPOs will happen through AI. And I've invested myself in a lot of companies who are automating that process, not only with just the process automation, but also human intelligence in the communication using voice. And thirdly, obviously there were a lot of use cases which were utilized in a lot of companies, which is marketing campaign generation, generating call scripts, generating communications and things, generating presentations, generating documents, generating collaterals. So there was this wave of opportunity which entrepreneurs leveraged for AI as an opportunity to create large businesses. Obviously, the first level investments happen, and in that world, if you want to categorize the investment, the first level investment happened in LLMs to create that kind of baseline. But what is happening at the same time, that the LLMs have utilized all kind of open data which exists today on the planet. Okay, so by the way, a lot of LLM companies who have raised billions of dollars have stopped building LLMs. So only 2 or 3 companies are building LLMs now. Rest everybody has stopped. Either they sold to Google, and blah blah and so on, right? So the opportunity for entrepreneurs to do anything LLM. So how many of you are potential entrepreneurs are thinking to be an entrepreneur here? Okay, how many of you are thinking AI in that opportunity as an entrepreneur? Okay, so if you're thinking in those lines, stop thinking about, hey, let me go and build LLMs. By the way, in India also people have built LLMs for a lot of domestic languages. The second category which has come up is that because all the data is over, for LLMs to be built now, people are building reasoning in LLMs. So how do you make human intelligence, which as Ganesh was talking about is ASI, artificial super intelligence, and also AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which will be all based on reasoning. So you will see OpenAIs of the world will start building reasoning in all of their models versus building LLMs, and improving them LLMs in a different way, which was happening earlier. The second opportunity, what is happening is now because all the data is over on the planet to train the models, people are going in enterprises. Because enterprises have a lot of data, it is that it's not open. It's all behind the firewalls, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs are looking at how do I leverage enterprise data and create AI companies on top of it. And one thing, as you could look at it, and if you want to read it, go and read about agentic AI. So agentic AI is where all entrepreneurs are looking at how do I use enterprise data, how do I train them, and how do I super automate process with the human intelligence, right? So for example, in a banking scenario, if I want to write underwriting, I want to underwrite a loan, I will apply human intelligence on top of the data what I have and then underwrite a loan, for example, without having any human involvement. So that's the intelligence working in enterprise. So a lot of entrepreneurs are leveraging agentic AI as the next opportunity, and a lot of entrepreneurs will use reasoning as the opportunity in the AI world, right? Now, that's the first part, how entrepreneurs are leveraging AI as a business opportunity. The second part is how entrepreneurs are leveraging AI to optimize the opportunity, to optimize the businesses they are running, right? I think there's this thesis where all investors like us and still entrepreneurs like us is going after a theme that can one person build $1 billion company? And is that possible? I think that answer is yes. Now look at it. If you want to start up, what all do you need? You need HR to work to an extent. If you have a small team, you manage it on, and then as you expand 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 plus, you need some HR components, right? You need some recruitment people to hire people for you to scale that. You need sales people, right, to go after and get leads and customers for you. You need customer service, right? You need legal help in some of those. You need finance. All of these areas are now possible to run just with one person. Why is that? Because there are a lot of startups who have leveraged the first part of the theme I was talking about and created companies. So for example, today you can have an AI bot, which is called as an AI SDR bot as an example, which can take care of anything and everything to run your sales process. And when I say anything, everything, this includes finding out what kind of leads you want to go after, making calls to those people, writing good emails to those people, sending collaterals to those people, making first level of interactions with them, setting up appointments with them. So what you have to do is only just talk to that at a level 2, try to close the deal if you have a superior product, right? So your sales is taken care of. Finance, same thing. Your invoice comes up, automatic reconciliations happen, automatic general entries happens, automatic balance sheet comes up, all P&Ls comes up, you can send invoices, you can send emails, everything is automated. Customer service, same thing. Legal, same thing. HR, everything is automated and you have AI agents to do this work. So basically as startup entrepreneurs, if you want to optimize your product in terms of launch, cost, resources and things like those, first thing everybody is doing it using is AI agents. Right? And that's why this is how can one person build a $1 billion company is coming more true and true as you go after. Including if you're building a technology product, by the way. In technology product, you have coding assistants like Vikram said, right? And they are able to reason now writing the codes and they can write fully, including from UX to UI to code to QA to deployment to maintenance, everything, by the way. Even today you can generate a UX wireframes and mockups just by writing prompts. Right? In fact, I have invested in a company which is automating prompt also now. I mean, I was like zapped to see all of these innovations. So what I'm saying is that entrepreneurs are leveraging AI in different ways as an opportunity and as to optimize the opportunity. I think you should pick up in either ways the direction you're going in and try to use. I think AI is really real. To Ganesh's point, is there a hype? The answer is yes. Is hype gonna plateau next year? The answer is yes. MIT economists is saying that 70% of all the hundreds of billions of dollars which is funded, which is gonna be wiped out. It's going to be double the impact of what the dot-com bubble was. But is the implementation of AI going to continue? The answer is yes. The third most important part where the AI innovation will also start happening is now humanoids, right? Which is a combination of humans plus robots. You had robots earlier which were trained to do certain tasks. Now you have humanoids, wherein robots will have intelligence. Again, AGIs and ASSIs to detect, to identify, to take corrective actions. So if you are following DeepMind, if you're not, you should follow DeepMind, and you'll see how the robot have evolved over a few years, right? So they can do anything and everything, including super thinking like what we do, and take corrective actions as may be required. So that's the third key area. I would say if somebody is wanting to start an AI company today, should focus on humanoids, because that's where there is a massive, everybody loves investments, a lot of investments are going to come. Lot of applications of those in manufacturing companies and industrial companies, which is a wide range as opposed to just pure software enterprise companies, and a next emerging opportunity for entrepreneurs. So, thank you.
Thanks, Akash. It's very useful. If any of you want to see more about humanoids, I mean, the first movie where they predicted that computers could take over the world is 2001 Space Odyssey. I don't know if you've seen it. I just saw it again on the flight. It's about this supercomputer called HAL, which goes berserk in space and kind of sends the entire mission of its rocket, literally. And then the recent movie which you must see called The Artifice Girl, which is about a humanoid. So it's a humanoid which starts being very supportive to a research group, and then it develops a mind of its own, and it's also a human body, obviously, because it's inside the body. At the end of it, it gets so bored of the stupidity of human beings that it says, what do I do with myself? So then it starts learning ballet all by itself. The last scene in that movie is this poor humanoid, really lonely because nobody is as intelligent as she is, and actually teaching herself ballet. So it's actually very amazing to see what can happen in the future. Uday, over to you, sir. So the experience and what you think, based on what Akash also said, entrepreneurs should be doing and how should they think about AI?
Yeah, thank you, Ganesh. Really, I'm really excited and be a part of this panel, and a lot of good things are shared by Vikram and Akash. So I think there are three important impact that whatever is my experience I've been working on. So number one is like, the AI is going to improve the productivity and efficiency of any task. But remember one thing, that what we are automating is a task and not the job. So the job is still going to be there. There will still be a human in the loop. And what is going to happen is the people intelligence will be used for more critical thing than doing the repetitive tasks. So the jobs are not going away. It will get replaced by the humans will be there, but it will add a lot of value to what they deliver to the customer. The second impact is, it has become more democratized and accessible to all. So it has actually created a level playing field. So whether it is a student or an individual or a small entrepreneur, they all can leverage, because now the GenAI and the other AI services are available in a cloud, and they are very, very affordable. So prior to this, the AI has been like around for quite some time, and machine learning, AI, and algorithms are there for a long time. But it was very expensive, and unless otherwise you have a good team and you have a bigger budget, you were not able to really leverage the capabilities of all the technologies. Now with the help of whatever like if you look at the ChatGPT or a Gemini or all other like the models which are available at almost like, and the costs are actually going down. Every 6 months the costs are going down by 50%. So what was costing like a year back is almost like a 1/4 cost today. So if you look at like the GPT-4o, the cost which was like now is almost like a 25 cent for 1 million input tokens. So the costs are really coming down. It's becoming more affordable. It is more accessible. That's why everybody can actually leverage it. The third impact is, in my opinion, is that now we are moving from the data to the actionable insight. So people were having the data, but they were not able to generate the actionable insight from that. With the help of whatever the technologies are available today, would you be able to generate the actionable insight from that data? So I would like to give a couple of examples based on my own experience. So I've invested in a small startup, and she offers a customized jewelry. And because there's a customized jewelry, she interacts with a customer back and forth to understand what her customer is looking for. Based on that interaction, she then uses, or her design team uses their imagination to create a design, and then again a draft design is sent back to the customer, and then again it goes through the couple of iterations before the final design is approved. So which was actually hindering her growth and the scalability. So we invested in an internal tool to use we use something called the stability.ai to generate the images based on the certain set of parameters and the description of what customer is looking for. And it throws it gives the beautiful images of the jewelry based on the description, which are then sent to the customer. Customer then shortlists it, and then she actually designs it. So with this, and she is a very like a small entrepreneur. Her the turnover is not even maybe 50 lakhs a year. But we are actually leveraging the whatever the technology GenAI available to help her to reduce her cost by almost 75% and the effort by almost 80%. The second example that I work with one of the Pune-based product company, and they have their customer database, support database of their last 10 years. There are thousands of tickets, and it is a product. So typically the customer would actually call for how do I do this thing? It's a large product, so how do I do a particular feature, or how do I use this? And or that some kind of issues, problems, etc. So it has thousands of ticket, and customer service representatives were working, and they used to have a multiple interaction against each ticket. And it has a lot of embedded knowledge buried inside the system, which the similar problem comes, the support engineers were spending similar amount of time instead of referring to it. Very difficult to search back and what somebody did it and somebody answered the question 2 years back. So we actually use the AI to work on this large amount of data, extracted all the product and the knowledge which was accumulated in over the last 10 years, and then that knowledge is then transferred into the chatbot, and the customer queries are now almost 70% of the queries, which are common queries, are answered using the chatbot. And now the support engineers are focusing more on a critical or the important which cannot be solved by the AI, and they are focusing more on the important and critical issues. The same database, we analyze each and every ticket, and what Vikram has talked about, creating a quality score. So we created a quality score for each and every ticket based on the support engineer interaction with the customer. And by analyzing each and every ticket, we created a quality score that gave a feedback to the management saying that which are the areas where you need to improve the processes, which are the areas where the training is required, which are the areas where some kind of the skill upgradation is required, and how do we then improve the quality of the service. The third example, I work with one of the US company which is into the legal tech. So they work with the laws of about 170 to 180 countries, almost like a 20 to 30,000 laws, and they have an army of legal researcher to study those laws, summarize them, extract the meaningful provisions of the law, and there's a lot of analytics that they do, and we have been working with them for last like 6-7 years. And once we saw that there is an opportunity of how we can use the GenAI to reduce the number of activities that are being done by the legal team, and so now we are actually working on the initial version and automating some of those things. So this you can see this like the various sizes of the enterprises are leveraging, and I'm sure that there will be thousands of cases, but these are just a few cases. And on the other hand, what Akash has said is how the enterprises and the startups are leveraging the technology to offer the innovative solution. And I can give you some example which are Pune based. So we know that this our Ajit Patil has a company called DeepTech, and they actually have created a solution to analyze the chest X-rays and detect the sign of TB, early sign of TB. It is already, I think, the global, probably he will talk more on that. Then we know there is another of our chartered member, V Synergize, Vishaka, and they have built the completely AI-based contact center. Then we know there is another person I met very recently, Atul Mehra. He has actually built a complete sales automation specifically for the auto dealership. Then I met one person from there's a company called Interviews.
Time.
Yeah.
Well, finish that.
So Interviews, which is actually automating the entire recruitment process and interviewing process using AI.
No, that's awesome, Uday. I think the number of examples that he's giving, and actually some of you raised your hand and said, I want to be entrepreneurs. Please remember that, the recent hype about Pune is that Pune itself will be, after Bangalore, the second largest startup capital. And a lot of that is going to be driven by AI. So I think any of you interested in entrepreneurship and you said AI, look at how it can impact your future business. And the rest of you who don't want to be entrepreneurs and still want to go for and work for large corporations, just make sure that you're constantly staying alive in terms of your knowledge, because you don't want to do anything repetitive that an AI can replace you with. And that's something you need to think about as you hear about people on this panel.
And I think, Ganesh, on that, the most important point is that earlier software, marketing, sales, operations, if they were your levers for a competitive advantage, they're no more your levers right now. Because they're saying 1 person, $1 billion company. Right? So if you're thinking you're building a software, or you have a great marketing engine, or if you have a great sales engine, and that will help you to be ahead of the competition, that answer is like absolutely no. So you have to be very, very specific about what opportunity is going after and what's your real value proposition and competitive advantage. It's going to be very, very tough for entrepreneurs to differentiate in such AI world. So be mindful about it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Akash. Okay, now we'll move to Seema. I think.
I just want to add one
please.
thing. Yeah. So what Akash is talking about, if you really want to experience the entire company, which is of the AI agents, how many of you know crewai.com? Nobody? Okay. So just visit crewai.com and you will actually see what Akash is talking about in action.
Yeah. So Seema has a background of both many years in HR and now running businesses. So So Seema, from your perspective, if you look at people, look at young people in this room, what should they know about AI, and what do you think they should know about using technology for the future of jobs, etc.? So what is your perspective? Seema, by the way, tried to use AI to reach her, so she came via Bombay. So she came via Bombay, I think.
Yeah. Seema Raghunath, pleasure being here. And as I was listening to everybody on the panel, I just realized everybody loves technology. People have fallen in love with data.
Once an engineer, always an engineer.
Yes, and I realized that I'm so non-engineer, but I guess that's the flavor of the panel, is that you have a googly entry. So I'll tell you a little about me because it's important before you try to understand my position. I'm actually somebody who was dyslexic, severely dyslexic, and I went to SNDT University to understand what's my problem, and that's how I started my life with psychology. So observational psychology is my space. Now, that same psychology and observation is why I have a very different view on things. I wrote a book called Eye-Touching, and this was in 2017 when the world was abuzz. I'm sure you boys were in love with AI at the time, and I wrote this book saying natural intelligence will be indefeatable. And the reason was because irrespective of what we do with technology, there is a human brain behind it. And no matter how intelligent technology aims to be, there is somebody who's a programmer, and there is someone who is a prompt engineer, or there is someone who designed the vision of what it's going to be at the end of the day. So who designs it is the maverick in the story. And I've always said this, and in every AI session I happen to say that while we empower a lot of people with AI and say, here is the universe of data, play with it, there can be a Mr. Burns somewhere. You know, Simpsons had a Mr. Burns. you don't know what the data does then if you don't use governance adequately, right? Or you don't use your levers of control. We also tend to think of AI as the be-all and the end-all, and that is where I kind of go and stand right behind Satya Nadella. Satya very recently talked at an interview, a very interesting thing that he said. He says, I don't know who's the person who came up with this name artificial intelligence, because I think whoever this is has done a disservice, because to a very large extent we've assumed that it is the equal of the human mind when it isn't. It is actually the aggregate and the cumulative intelligence of huge number of human beings to become the intelligence it is. So the precursor of this intelligence is still the human being. And he says, if we start to admire or depend on something that is artificial to the extent that it promises today, we as humans will become defunct. And then that comes, because Ganesh, you like movies, you remember WALL-E, a movie that was made long ago, right? You remember. And the end stage of human beings is that we're going to turn into boxes. Our heads will be large, hands and legs are useless because no one's using it really. And we're all sipping drinks because your body is not in motion, so your metabolism is again defunct. But everything is engineered to perfection, and technology is running the world. So I, as an educator, I've spent all my life in education. I'm not like the engineering team on the panel. I'm actually the user of this data. I mean, when you design some beautiful products and then you come out with great use of data, then people like me at the other end, we sit as customers saying, how can we use this, you know, somewhere? Maybe in HR, maybe in education, maybe in skilling. Yeah, that's our interest, how to apply. But because I'm an educator, I have truly enjoyed the belief that there is no greater library than what is in your head or what is in his head. You know, you're going to be like 10 times greater volume of inspiration and wisdom than some aggregate pop-up somewhere for me in the form of an Insta reel or anything like that. And I fear just one thing, that we as Gen X, most of us as Gen X, have had the benefit of learning from real people. And somewhere I worry whether that would be taken away. So when we're working on Skills Alpha and creating a platform which will be of use to educational institutions, I'm still attached to humanizing it. And by that what I mean is we're not talking of a blind copy-paste of everything that's sitting on the internet as data and then put that into a content and dish it out to people, because I think there are lots of people doing that anyway. You don't need Skills Alpha for that. So our position therefore is a unique one, which is more interested in empowering the institution and the true time educators, true blue educators. We'd like to use AI to work with you to understand what kids today need, what jobs are going to be tomorrow, what entrepreneurship tomorrow will entail, and therefore what's the kind of skill you wish to build, in which case AI is to be used at that juncture, post the diagnosis. We work with the colleges and the institutions. We use the AI platform to collect the data that's important to suit the curriculum of an institution in whichever direction it wants to take its kids in. And it's not necessary that everybody has to become a millionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire. Some of us would like to use our minds and be engaged in what is the destiny and the future of those who wish to have a different pace. And the Dream Education platform is one that has space for everybody. And if that's the place you wish to be, then who has to play with AI is not the student at the end, because the student can play with ChatGPT. They're anyway doing it right now. Then what's the point of an institution? We as institutions will become defunct. We as educators and teachers and parents will become defunct. It will be replaced by a child sitting on ChatGPT, and they'll outdo you in 2 minutes. They'll tell you stuff that you don't know. Like, I was watching something by HBO, and they came up with a series called Years and Years. It's a film. And there's a character called Bethany. And she has this very argumentative discussion with her parents, and they ask her about her life. And a lot of young people are unhappy with their body. That happens to be something that's a new trend. I mean, in my time, we accepted whatever we had, and kaam chala lete the usse. Now there's a disgruntlement, like, I'm not happy with this, it's to improve. So with that kind of depression moving, faster, worse, or whatever, there is a desire to explore what else can I do, or even dispose this body. And Bethany actually tells her parents the scariest thing that you could ever hear. And she says, I'm so unhappy with my body that I actually don't mind giving it up. And the parents say, for what? To recycle. I mean, who would think of it? And then they say, if you recycle your body, what remains of you, Bethany? And she says, I will be data. And then the father says, how can you be data? And she educates her father. I'm sure she used ChatGPT, but Switzerland right now, as we talk here on this platform, is working hard to create a program and a system that converts you into a chip. So Vikram chip, Ganesh chip. We'll all be in some kind of a Rolodex. Everyone's a chip.
And the neural chips are already coming on the way. Thanks to Elon Musk.
So they're downloading, right?
Out of time.
Yes, so basically what we're saying is that you can download data and kind of live for posterity. And it looks like AI may not stay AI. AI may get phased out with something called human intelligence, but this time in chip variation. Okay? So we're here to talk about the possibilities, and therefore I keep saying this one thing. Let's use AI, let's use technology, but preserve the human side of things, because that side of it is never going to go out of business. Thank you.
You're playing into my dual intelligence algorithm. Karthi, over to you, sir.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. Today is a sad day, and personally, I know the gentleman long enough to know, and it is up. I was happy that we celebrated him today. Usually Ganesh brings me to speak when he wants to have a counter opinion. Okay, so in theology there are a lot of razors, right? There is Occam's razor, Hanlon's razor, and when you look at Occam's razor, it says that the simplest explanation, right, for a problem. Let's say if AI is a problem, simplest explanation is the solution or the action that we should take. So if the simplest, there are a lot of different opinions, right? We heard that I started my career as a data analyst. My first startup was data. And then my third startup was actually thinking how we bring in different types of data, right? It was about mergers and acquisition. We were trying to solve problems related to mergers and acquisition. Hence, natural language became important, visual data became important, not just data, what we are usually talking about, right? A lot of examples talks about data, which is quantitative data. But almost 90% of the data in this world is not quantitative. They are qualitative data, right? So, as entrepreneurs, right, if you are going to be thinking about building something new, I would rather say apply the Occam's razor principle and Hanlon's principle, right? From every generation, the principle changes what the outcome is, right? The history has taught us that. So I would not ask the entrepreneurs of this generation to follow me, okay? Don't follow the same principles that we have used. Change it, right? So until recently, that's the hypothesis of the person who invented the statement, right? Is that going to be a super intelligence? Let's assume that it is the case. And it is also going to be cheap. Let's assume those two things. So what will happen as humans? As an entrepreneur who wants to start a journey, how will you also use that hypothesis to win or realize your dream? Right? We come to the word dream. Animals dream, we dream. But what do we have? We are able to pursue our dream. Right? So, super intelligence, if it is going to be a reality in the near future, am I prepared for it? Correct? Is a question that you need to be living with. All of us are, let's say I am 50 plus, and I'm pretty sure most of us are 50 plus, right?
Still 25.
So my view is, our perspective is something that you take, but use your own razor principles, right? Whether it is Occam principles or Hanlon principles. Research, right? Hanlon principle says that if a person says something, don't assume that his intent is established. You can only establish his competency. Right? Intent is a whole different ballgame. Whereas we can only hear what from we say our competencies, right? Our intent is always incomprehensible. So, like Akash said it very eloquently, right? The evolution of intelligence has followed almost like our human evolution, right? When you have a child, I'm pretty sure none of you you're all young, so not married, right? We all start as chatbots. Non-stop yapping, trying to mimic what we heard, right? And then we become reasoners, we question, and every time mom asks a small child, do you want milk? The answer is no, even though the answer is yes, right? So the reasoners evolve, and then you go the other side of the evolution, which is innovation and super intelligence, or independent entities. We all evolve that way. And this word artificial intelligence is not, even though it's appropriate, is evolving that way. So the last point I want to make is, what is the difference between the DNA between chimpanzee and us? Anybody has an answer? It's 1%, right? What current AI is a chimpanzee, right? It took us almost thousands of years from our ancestors, common ancestors of ape, before we became intelligent beings, right? Sapiens, what we call as sapiens, right? What Ganesh said. So we evolved, right? And this evolution has been a fluke, right? Can a scientist explain how we evolved? They try, and they can't prove it because it's just hallucination of events that might have happened. So, can from now a chimpanzee super intelligence can evolve? I put my last dollar on it, yes. Right? People might not agree with it, but yes, it will happen. Will it happen in 1,000 days? It will happen in 10,000 days? Is irrelevant. But my view is it is going to happen. And it is going to happen cheap. Right? We have solved a lot bigger problems as engineers to make things cheaper. We will solve this problem also. Somebody said, my daughter is a, what do you call, sustainable expert, right? She's 21 years old, she thinks she is. She said, every 100 words ChatGPT creates, we are using 5 liters of water. Right? We will find a way to solve that problem also. We will make it cheaper, right? Bulk of us are engineers, we are good at it, right? We'll make it cheaper, we'll make it faster, and the super intelligence will evolve. So now, what are we going to do as humans? So Ganesh said, tell me about how will we get prepared for this eventuality, right? One thing I still believe what a machine cannot do, which we can do is dream. Right? Can a machine dream? I don't know what the dream would be. My dream can evolve in very, very unsymmetrical, non-linear way, right? And can solve problems. And I can think about solutions. Can the machines do? I still think it might not. Even though it might be a super intelligent, not all of us can dream and solve problems also, right? There are different levels of human intelligence as well. So, having said this, right, I would say every student we are trying to educate in the future, we need to help them dream, right? Education is a term that was invented for cost-benefit analysis. Learning is not a cost-benefit process, education is. So in order to learn, we need to learn how to dream, right? Engineers or future leaders, entrepreneurs, if we can dream, right, we are always going to be better than a machine, however super intelligent it is going to be. Thank you.
That's amazing. So I think the biggest problem can be that, as Akash was saying, you can have a lot of humanoids who also learn how to dream, and Indians will regress to being chimpanzees who only have nightmares. So on that note, I'm going to end this panel, okay, because it's enough. I think it's phenomenal in terms of the thinking ideas that we get out of this, and I'm sure the next two panels will progress that into different directions. So thank you very much. It's been an absolutely wonderful panel.